Starting your week the right way. Coming to the FPL Green Room with me, Gianni Batici, and her, Holly Shand.
Coming up in today's show, we're going to react to all of the action from Game Week 1 with my numbers game and Gianni's eye test report before looking at our moves for Game Week 2.
Oh yeah, gosh, I might even need to make one. That wasn't the plan. But first up, let's talk about our Game Week 1 scores. We'll talk about XG underperformers. And of course, we'll talk about some of the big results of the weekend before the eye test. But Holly, how did your Game Week 1 get on?
Yeah, not too bad, actually. I'm coming out fairly pleased. I think I'm on 64 points at the minute before the bonus from today comes in. And I've had 7 out of 10 returns, which is good. Eze was robbed. Smith Rowe, I wasn't really owning him for Game Week 1 anyway. I have got a Kwanzaa quandary though to deal with now. What about you?
Yeah, I've had 43 plus Haaland bonus to come on. I think he's going to get 2, so I'm going to say 45. I do have my Spurs players to play, Son and Solanke. So yeah, I'm not going to reach your dizzy heights, unfortunately. A bad game week, if I'm honest. But let's see what happens Monday night. And some will be listening to this after Monday. So we won't talk about Spurs-Leicester, the game I'm going to, sat with the Leicester fans. That should be fun. So yeah, fine. But I mean, I guess as I look ahead, like I might need to make a transfer because I also have Kwanzaa, but I also have Barco. So yeah, not ideal, but we'll talk more about them later, I guess. We had some big XG underperformers this week, Holly. Did you watch the Friday night game? I thought Bruno owners in particular were proper unlucky.
Yeah, he could have had about 3 goals in the space of 5 minutes and then to come away with absolutely nothing. I know a lot of United fans backed Bruno. A lot of players that wanted a player for the first fixture went with Fernandes as well. So I think he frustrated a lot.
Yeah, and did you? I mean, we're recording this straight after the Chelsea game. I thought they were all right. I thought Chelsea just needed to take their big chances. I was actually looking at the XG in the game, and Chelsea clocked a higher XG in that game than Man City. I think Man City were around 0.8 and Chelsea 1.2. So it's just a case of taking your chances, which of course, when you've got elite players like Erling Haaland on the pitch, you kind of always do. I thought if you're a non-Haaland owner, watching that and knowing you've got Ipswich up next is a scary prospect, isn't it? But it's too late now. You probably made your bed and you probably can't get him in your Game Week 2 team. And you probably shouldn't. Like, you knew what you were in for and you should probably just ride that wave now.
Yeah, I mean, we've got De Bruyne, Foden available. Yeah. Doku looks like he's probably nailed now as well with the other personnel in the winging spots out. So, you know, there are options there if you do want to beef up your squad for the Ipswich game without tearing it up and starting again to get Haaland in.
Yeah, okay. Holly, I'm just going to mention a little bit of housekeeping because we would love you guys to rate us as a pod. So some of you will be listening on Apple or Spotify, but make sure you hit that follow button, but also give us a 5 stars and drop a comment as well. Join our mini league as well. 139793 is the link. And if you want to check out any previous episodes, some of them are still fairly relevant when we looked at last season's data, for example. So leave a review. And of course, if you've got any questions for us, you want to know any of our gossip, fplgreenroom@gmail.com is the email address.
Yeah, so what have we got in the mailbag this week? Well, it's a question from me, actually, Gianni, because you got yourself onto the Fantasy 606 podcast this week for BBC Sport. And I hear this podcast got a little mention, so well done.
Yeah, I even referred to you as my TV wife, and I was like, oh, she's not just my TV wife now, she's my podcast wife. And I think Chris said, oh yeah, old Holly. So yeah, no, it was great. We mentioned the Green Room and they thought it was brilliant. They thought it was a great idea. Chris said he'd listen. Who knows if he will. But I love being on that pod. Fantasy 606, I think, has been going for maybe 5 years. And Ali Bruce Ball, who is such a pro. Many would have heard his commentaries on 5 Live. He was at the Olympics when we recorded doing the, he'd done the diving and he was about to go and do the cycling for the BBC. So he's one of the commentators of the BBC, and having him do an FPL pod feels a little bit surreal. Like I once recorded a podcast with him and we recorded literally hours, or I guess it was 12 hours before, the night before the Queen's funeral. And he was commentating for the BBC on the Queen's funeral. Like, I was like, there you are doing an FPL pod with me. And 12 hours later, you're literally speaking to the nation, reporting on the Queen's funeral. So I just thought that was pretty cool. And Chris Sutton and him have such great camaraderie. Chris Sutton's always there for the banter, isn't he, Holly?
Yeah, I love the little challenges that you have to do when you go on the podcast. It really is a fun one to record with all the little games, and it puts you under pressure as the FPL expert to actually know your stuff and kind of beat the casuals at their own game.
I've done Sutton Death twice against Ali, I think, or maybe once against Chris, once against Ali, and I lost both times. So like they're like, oh, what sort of expert is this guy? So yeah, I need to up my game. Fortunately, this week we didn't do it, but it was great. It was the first pod of the season for them, and it was just loads of fun. Statman Dave wasn't there, which is why I stood in. But yeah, Chris made me laugh because he was saying, how do you set up a team? How do you say? Because he usually does it with his son, Taylor, who's his assistant manager. But Taylor and his partner have just had a baby. So the job of setting up a team was Chris's. And he was like, I don't know how to do it. Like, he doesn't do any tech stuff. So I thought that was quite funny that he was like, are you going to get your team in by the deadline, Chris? And apparently I've checked, he does have his team in. Wow. So yeah, assistant manager duties might need to fall on one of his other children maybe for a couple of weeks.
I think there's an age threshold, isn't there? I mean, I got my mum to do a team for the first time this year and she didn't know what she was doing. And then my sister suggested she should auto pick. And it was getting quite close to the deadline. I had other jobs to do. I thought, I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine she'll have a very good season. She'll probably never log in again. Anyway, let's move on then to have a look at the numbers game, because I've delved into the data from all of the fixtures that we've had to find out who were the top performers. Now, we've already mentioned Manchester United against Fulham. Well, Bruno Fernandes, 6 shots, 2 big chances, an XG of 1.03. He shared corners with Ahmad as well. Yes. He was playing the 9 role. Obviously, Xerxes came on and scored. So you would expect that Fernandes moves back into the 10 role fairly soon, which I don't think is a bad thing for him. Obviously, we had the Garnacho leak as well, that he was benched. He came on and looked impressive in the 30 minutes or so that he had. So we had 1 shot on goal, 1 big chance, an XG of 0.72 and 3 key passes. So he still looks like he could be an option. We never really got to the bottom of why he was benched. Manchester United certainly looked better when he came on. So, a couple there for the watch list, that's for sure. Spurs, well, Muniz had 2 shots, 1 on target, 1 big chance. Andreas looked lively, 6 chances created. He was on corners, he was on free kicks. Smith Rowe, who's in my team, I couldn't find any underlying numbers for him. It was as if he hadn't played. But, going to Old Trafford, making your debut, it's not an easy introduction. Hopefully, when you've got a home game against Leicester in game week 2, that's when he's going to come to the fore.
I think so. I thought Smith Rowe looked really good in the 2 pre-season games, which you would have seen his cameos where he clearly, has a point to prove and it becomes a bit of a goal threat. But yeah, the headline, I guess, for many was Bruno. And I think we probably got away with one as being a non-Bruno owner. I think Bruno is a very strong buy this week, if that's your flavour and you're looking for a transfer that's at a price point. And he doesn't need to be playing false 9 to be a really good option. Him and Mount have rotated a lot in that position. It was almost like a front 4 and he was one of the 2. I saw the average positions on online, and Xerxes starting could actually be a good thing for Bruno because Xerxes comes short a lot anyway. And if Xerxes feeding Bruno late runners, then Bruno could feast. I thought it was weird that Garnacho didn't start, and I think he's definitely played his way into the 11 now. Yeah,
hopefully that's what we want to see because he's one of United's best players. Let's see if anyone else comes in the window. So then we had Ipswich against Liverpool. Liverpool had 19 shots on goal, which was most of any side in game week 1. And it was the Salah show. 4 shots, 3 on target, 4 in the box, 2 big chances, a goal, an XG of 0.71. He also created 3 chances, including 1 big chance, which got him his assist as well. Luckily for me and you, though, we tried to cover Salah with Jota and it just about worked. He had 3 shots himself, 2 big chances, an XG of 0.95, getting himself on the score sheet. So that was good. Soberslai looked interesting, playing in that 10 role. 4 shots for him.
Oh, really? Did he have that many? That's good to know.
And then creativity was there as well. 3 chances created, 1 big chance created. Trent, 3 chances created, including 2 big chances. Robertson, he took 6 corners. Liverpool seemed to be doing in swingers now rather than out swingers. So Robertson and Trent are having to go to their wrong side to take the corners. But he was involved as well in terms of crosses. He made 11 crosses as well. So plenty to choose from Liverpool.
That's really good to know about the corners too. And Van Dijk headers, I always see Van Dijk get headers as kind of the outswinger. So to see now he's going to be receiving in-swingers, I wonder how that will affect his output. But Szoboszlai with the 4 shots, the 3 chances created, seeing him play so advanced, 6.5 mid, I like. And Jota, yeah, we got the goal and we're happy. But we so nearly got a Trent assist Jota goal, which would have been magical. And it was a header that Jota usually eats up. And he just whistled past the post. But I thought Trent was brilliant in that game.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that I've got him in my team. It was he was an expensive luxury, and it was hard to justify having him there because it kind of blocked having like a Spurs defender and an Arsenal defender. But he did the business. Talking about Arsenal, then they did manage to keep a clean sheet. They had 18 shots and created 6 big chances between them, and it was Havertz and Saka running the show. So they each had 5 shots. And 1 big chance. An XG of 0.45 for Havertz and an XG of 0.36 for Saka. Saka was creative of it as well. 5 key passes, took 3 corners, was sharing those with Declan Rice. We was worried about Havertz positioning. Jesus only came on for 5 minutes, and that's really encouraging for Havertz to continue in that 9 role. A couple of other things I picked up from the game. Ben White had 2 shots, 1 on target. Martinelli looked creative on the left, 3 chances created, including 1 big chance. He's been a player that's not always been nailed on that left-hand side. So plenty to go at from Arsenal. I'm a little bit concerned that I've only got Saka. I need more, I feel like, after that performance.
Yeah, okay. I think I do too. I don't have any Arsenal. Very concerned about that, but I knew what I was getting myself into, and I knew there was a very good chance of a clean sheet game week 1 and Saka points game week 1. I guess I've got to judge it after 5-6 game weeks, and I have Son instead, and I have Trent instead. So did Trent outperform Gabriel Saliba? Yes, yeah, but you spend more money, that's fine. I just need Son. I said I wouldn't speak about Spurs. Just need Son to outperform Saka. And look, I guess let's not even go purely off game week 1. Let's go off the first 2. Son has Everton at home. Saka has a tricky away tie against Aston Villa. So let's see how that one goes. But Saka clearly very impressive and obviously a very good FPL option.
Yeah, I hope the Son move pays off for you because I think it was a good call. Moving on to Everton v Brighton then. And Brighton with 3 goals in the end. Matoma was the one that shone. 4 shots, 3 on target, 4 in the box, 2 big chances, an XG of 1.12. Like he could have come away from that game with a whole lot more. João Pedro maybe not as involved as you'd like him to have been. Just the 1 shot, 1 big chance created as well. He hit the post, so a little bit disappointing. And then Minter, he was a concussion substitute just before the half-time whistle.
He didn't want to go off, did he? He didn't want to go off. But yeah, I mean, concussion rules are there for a reason, but still looked good, didn't he?
Yeah, 3 key passes, 1 big chance created. So yeah, I think he's going to be a great option as well. Whether he's available or not for game week 2, isn't it? It's 7 days, isn't it, for concussion, or it used to be.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Brighton play again Saturday. Should be okay then.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure it was a concussion sub. I think it was, but again, I don't know where that's confirmed and where. I wasn't following the game because I was at the City ground, but I was getting messages all the time. So yeah, one to monitor there, and quite a few own Minter now, or we'll be looking at Minter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Forest then, 8 shots on target for them. Chris Wood was the one that got the goal, but his numbers weren't that great. Just
he
the
was
1
shocking.
shot. Yeah.
He was shocking live. I couldn't believe he got his goal. Like, it was so lucky. The ball just bounced off him to one of their defenders who fumbled it, and then he picked up the pieces. Other than that, and then he finished it away nicely, sure. But the goal was produced by a Chris Wood howler of his own, and the ball just dropped for him. Other than that, he did very little, and I thought his touch was poor. I think, other than his head, he doesn't do much.
No, exactly. Ryan Yates came on in this game, and he had 3 shots, 2 on target, both in the box. I don't know whether you picked up on that when you was in the stadium.
Yeah,
but
he's a bit of a fan's favourite. When he came on, everyone was very happy. I mean, Delido had just gone off with a broken ankle, which wasn't great news, but he's clearly a home favourite, Yates. But Gibbs White just ran the show for me in terms of just watching. He's one of those players that's always got time and space. Just class.
He doesn't get the returns though all the time, and he wasn't taking all set pieces either, was he? So
No,
Yeah.
he was on some, I think.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about Newcastle Southampton because the red card early absolutely changed the game. So you'd imagine that all the stats are in Southampton's favour. 10 men does change things. The late game on Saturday was West Ham Aston Villa. Kudos with 2 shots in the box, 2 key passes, 1 big chance created, and an XA of 0.44. His numbers looked good. The one that shocked me was Souček, who had 5 shots, all in the box, 2 big chances, an XG of 1.04, and he also made 2 key passes. Now, he had a season in FPL.
Yeah, his first one.
It was maybe was it 18-19 or 19-20 when
it
he was
his first season
mid?
Yeah. Got loads of goals, didn't he?
He did really well, and he had that license to kind of get forward from DM to kind of hover between the lines, which definitely helped him. So that's one to monitor. I'm not saying go buy, but you just got to take on board the numbers there for that one.
Yeah, it's fair. I would never notice Souček. Some did tell me when I was looking for a 5 million replacement for Oscar Bob pre-season. I remember doing YouTube chat and seeing people going, just buy Souček. I was like, no, he's so defensive nowadays. But clearly, bit of license, and maybe that's a Lopetegui thing. Maybe we need to monitor that. And if we see in the next couple of game weeks that he's continuing to get shots in the box, then we probably react. One game might not be enough because it could have been just a tactical thing in that game. But let's monitor that for sure.
Yeah. Moving on then to Brentford v Crystal Palace and Eze. The fact that he came away with just 2 points from that game is shocking.
Do you own him? No.
Yeah, I own him.
I don't. You do. Okay.
Yeah. I nearly didn't because I was worried about the potential move away. But it looked like at 5 o'clock, Fabrizio Romano said that his release clause had expired. So I think it's going to be more difficult for anyone to acquire Eze in the window now. He had 7 shots, 3 on target, 4 in the box, an XG of 0.44, scored a free kick, but it wasn't counted. The only bad thing that I spotted was that Wharton was taking some of the corners. So he's not absolutely on every single set piece for Palace. He did take a corner himself. But yeah, really impressive performance from him. And there's options at Brentford as well, because we had Visser, who had 2 shots, 1 on target, an XG of 0.91. And then Mbeumo got his goal, looked creative as well, as we expect. 3 key passes, 1 big chance created. Tony wasn't in the squad, which suggests that the transfer is going to be happening. Brentford have got horrible fixtures over the next 4. But game week 6, if Tony is gone, and Mbeumo is a really exciting pick.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think he is. And the fixtures really turn around game week 6, I think, which might be when quite a few wild cards. They've got a brilliant run of fixtures. We know from last season when he's out of the team, and Mbeumo as well, Pens a lot. Yeah, Brentford are an interesting one. I thought Palace might win on Sunday against Brentford, but yeah, it wasn't to be. Many of us got Henderson, by the way, so you can see 2 wasn't great. But that Eze free kick, Holly, oh God, it was genius from Eze. Just caught the keeper off at his near post, Flecken. So unlucky because the foul in the area looks more like a foul on Hughes, the Palace player, if anything.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely robbed there, you have. So yeah, I got away with one there, I guess, with not owning Eze. But Eze points look like they're due.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very happy that I've got him in my side. In terms of just overall defensive numbers then, because a lot of this in-game is more looking at the attackers. No big chances on goal conceded by Brighton, Liverpool or Manchester United. So their defences look like they could be good ones to target. Some nice cheap options coming in at Manchester United in the window. And then expected goals conceded. The lowest was Arsenal on 0.39. Brighton 0.4, Manchester United 0.42, and Liverpool 0.47. So backing up that they are the early defences to target after just one game. So yeah, there's a few kind of things to ponder in there in the numbers. Obviously, it's only one game week, small sample size. But if we can see these pitches developing over the next few weeks, balancing the underlying numbers with the fixtures, some good picks could come.
I'm really enjoying this. I thought I watched the Liverpool game, and to hear say Szoboszlai's 4 shots and 3 chances created, I didn't see that. To hear Havertz's dominance as well is useful. to hear that Chris Wood one I saw for myself. Souček's one's really interesting. Eze, I saw that too. So yeah, really interesting to monitor. Keep up the good work, Holly. I want this every Monday morning. Looking forward to that. Look, I want to bring you some eye test scouting from what I saw from the games I've watched both on TV, and I've only watched one live. I was at the City Ground. Not a great FPL game, I guess. Not many have Forest players, and very few, I guess, have Bournemouth now, especially now Solanke's gone. I guess I'll be able to give a better eye test report on Spurs next week, having watched them against Leicester on Monday night. But just from watching games on the TV, like there's still a fair few headlines. I guess we should start with Liverpool, because you give some really good stats there on Liverpool. I want to talk a little bit about Mo Salah's positioning, because many would say, oh, he's hugging the touchline. He's still the most advanced man on the pitch. So whether he's wide or not doesn't really matter. He will always cut in. He'll always be dangerous cutting in. And when Jota's the number 9, Salah's going to be fed. When Darwin's the number 9, Darwin will often be the most advanced man on the pitch in and around the box. He won't be dropping short and getting the ball lots. Jota wants to do that. Clearly, Slot's telling him to do that, but he's doing that really well. He's dropping into those Harry Kane-style positions where he gets on the ball and he can feed his wingers. Now, Diaz should have scored, but Salah didn't just score. Yeah, he got the assist. He could have had a couple of others. Like Salah could have had a mega haul. So I thought that was really interesting. I think Salah-Jota link is really important. And then Trent was wide as a traditional right back, given license. A little bit more like Trent when he first started under Klopp, where he was allowed to stay wide. As the years went on with Klopp, he became more and more inverted. He was pretty wide and a kind of more traditional right back, which I think worked well for him. So that was, I guess, the headlines from the Liverpool camp. But I want to touch on, I guess, a couple of other teams and players. One that's less fashionable, but I think will become very, very fashionable, is Brighton. Holly, I asked in my YouTube chat on Friday, like, call one upset, like, or predict one game that's a kind of 50-50 game. And the one I felt most confident about, and I got a lot wrong this weekend, trust me, look at my team, but I got that right in terms of Brighton. Like, I fancied Brighton to win because I'm super impressed by their manager. I was super impressed by their pre-season. Everton, I think, might struggle, especially with injuries they had. Remember, they had a lot of defenders out, Everton. And obviously the red card helped Brighton, but the game was already won. And Danny Welbeck might just be a thing.
He's not a sexy pick.
I know. He's not a sexy pick because we all have this image of Welbeck as the guy that didn't quite make it at United, didn't quite make it at Arsenal, and the guy that's injured all the time. His injuries seem to have got better. He doesn't feel like he's a sick note as he used to. And even under De Zerbi, when he was in the team, I always thought he was pretty useful, but still, injuries were there. But we saw from Welbeck at the weekend, yes, he got a goal, but he also gets an assist. He gets 3 bonus points. And again, when I look at the Brighton manager, Hösler, his record from Germany, 2 things that jump out. He kept a lot of clean sheets. Now, he had teams that functioned very well and were successful, but he also got a lot out of his number 9s. His number 9s always had good goal scoring seasons. If Welbeck's going to become that number 9 or stay as the number 9, he's going to get goals because the way that Brighton will play under Hösler, feeding their number 9, a lot of chances. Now, that could become Ferguson's spot. And Ferguson, we know Ferguson's really highly rated. But for the time being, at least, Welbeck might just become an option. Now, the Brighton fixtures aren't amazing. They're not bad. They're not bad.
I don't think they're bad at all. They've got 3 home games in the next 4: Manchester United, Ipswich, and Forest. Arsenal away in game week 3 is not great, but other than that, it looks good. And just watching that game, watching the highlights on Match of the Day, whenever Brighton was scoring a goal, I couldn't even see João Pedro in the shot, and Welbeck was there. He's not a sexy pick, however, he is an interesting one.
You just need minutes. And I think I look at his minutes. His last 4 seasons, he's averaged around 1,500 minutes every season. What we need is to see a 2,500. Give him an extra 1,000 minutes. You're going to get big returns. He always gets around 10 returns a season, but he'll get more for this manager. He's only 1.5% owned and 5.5 million. If you need to save money, you want to do a downgrade of a Solanke to someone to save money elsewhere by game week 3 when Spurs' fixtures turn a bit, maybe that's an option. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Brighton fully yet because I need to see how things work with Ferguson, but definitely want to monitor Welbeck. And I'm not just saying that reacting to the good game against Everton. He's been really good pre-season too. Holly, Newcastle, in terms of eye test, it's hard to judge them. And the reason you didn't do the data on them was 10 minutes. You can't really. But Lewis Hall, again, self-indulgent here because I own him, didn't have a good game. Didn't have a good game at all. So one to monitor there. But with this 3-match suspension for Cher, Dan Burn's going to have to play centre-back. And therefore Lewis Hall's position is safe, but just one to monitor there. What do you make of that Newcastle defence? Because I think they're going to keep a ton of clean sheets like they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I've got Nick Pope in goal, and he worked for his 9-pointer, but he got it. So I was well chuffed with that. I think Newcastle defence are going to be decent. I think Mark Gay could come in, and I think Target made the squad as well. So there are options in the fullback spots for Newcastle. So this is why I went with Pope, because I knew that I was getting a nailed slot. But yeah, I think they could be great this season. It was a shame that we couldn't really properly eye test Newcastle for that game, because the red card happens so soon into the game.
Yeah. Another fixture I wanted to pick out was the Man United game.
Yeah.
New signing, Mazraoui. He might just be a legit option. Again, most United defenders are cheap, 4.5. De Ligt was signed on the same day and came in at 5, and Mazraoui came in at 4.5. And I was like, oh, surely they should be the same price. Like, Mazraoui's going to get you more attacking returns than De Ligt. And you'd think De Ligt was more of a bonus beast. But anyway, De Ligt didn't start. Mazraoui did. Picked up 2 bonus points, was very nearly 3 bonus points, by the way. He was only 1 behind Xerxes. And I think he's going to be really good. He was really competitive with all his duels. Remember, the bonus points rewarding tackles, interceptions, blocks, but he's quite advanced. He can play on either side. Now, the big question for me will be, when Luke Shaw is fit and in the team at left back, who's the starting right back? Because both Dalot and Mazraoui can play right back. I think Mazraoui might earn the spot, but I don't know. Last season, Dalot was very good, and I think Ten Hag will probably have a loyalty there because he was one of his best players last year. But one to monitor, because Man United, maybe with all their signings and with De Ligt coming in, maybe they're going to be much better defensively. And I don't think Fulham caused them many issues. And I think Fulham have got a lot of exciting attackers. The reason why we put Smith Rowe and Moniz in our teams. And when you look at the XG in total from that game, it's pretty low from Fulham. United weren't too troubled. Now, the fixtures, again, they're a bit of a mixed bag. It's tough to go to Brighton. It's going to be very tough welcoming Liverpool. But by game week 4, we might know a little bit more about United. And they have Southampton and Palace, fair play both away. But it might just be, if you're looking for a 4.5 replacement by then, let's say Kwanzaa's a sell, maybe a Mazraoui could become an option. I'm not sure I wouldn't go there straight away. And if I'm selling Kwanzaa this week, it's going to be for a nailed asset that I know is going to play week in, week out. But if you're looking for that cheaper defender later in the season, in a couple of weeks' time, maybe it's an option to look at United.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot that still needs to shake out at United in terms of the window, the new signings coming in, who plays where. I think a lot of the decision on fullback will be dictated by who gets those winger spots and how that all integrates to make the side as good as possible. But yeah, he is on my monitor list, but he's not on my Kwanzaa replacement shortlist at the moment.
Yeah, nice. Okay, well, look, the last player I was going to talk about, but we don't really need to because we already have, was Eze. And again, you covered him with the numbers, but the 7 shots, like, if you're watching the game, you go, yeah, clearly the best player. And that's why people were willing to pay 7 million for Eze. I think he's way better value than Mateta is at 7.5. And if you want a Palace attacker, it's always one of those two. Eze's still a very good pick, and owners have been unlucky. And he's proper highly owned as well. He's in like a third of teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Where do we move to next, Holly? We've done data. This is going to be our regular format now, isn't it? We're going to do data. We're going to do eye test, and then I guess we want to talk a little bit about trolls each week.
Yeah. So this is a new feature that we've only been able to bring in once FPL has started, and it's the troll of the week. And I think we're probably going to agree on who the troll of the week is this week. Jarell Kwanzaa. He's in both our teams as our third defenders, and we've not got a lot to come in from the bench for him either. I mean, I do feel like it was unlucky. Like, we knew he was going to start the season. It is very rare for a manager to sub off a centre-back for another centre-back at half-time. Liverpool kept the clean sheet as well, which is so frustrating. Now, I'm probably being a bit optimistic, but I'm hoping that maybe he still will get a start, because it was the Ipswich game. They were struggling to get possession, weren't they? That's why it was a tactical switch to
the
get
jewels.
Canate.
It's like, we're losing all the jewels, I think the manager said.
Yeah, get an extra man in midfield. So in a game where Liverpool are expected to have a lot of possession, like in Brentford at home, does he still start? But I think that's me just being ambitious and not wanting to admit defeat. I've made a mistake.
You might be right, Holly. I tweeted the same. I was like, it's not a foregone conclusion that Konate is now a starting team. He still wants to have a team very good at playing out from the back, and Kwanzaa's the better option. The only problem is he mentioned the jewels. He didn't say Kwanzaa was bad. He said he needed Konate on the pitch, and you're not going to take Van Dijk off. I don't know. They can be quite a physical team, Brentford, especially when Tony's in the team, and that long ball and aerial threat is important to them. And if Tony was in the team straight away, like, yeah, okay, you do need Konate there. But Kwanzaa can deal. Kwanzaa's not bad in the air. I just wonder if Kwanzaa does start. I think I'd say I'm 60-40, thinking it'll be Konate 60, Kwanzaa 40. But it doesn't feel like a knee-jerk sell to me yet.
Exactly, and that moves us on nicely to our Friday decisions. So, what transfer or not are you thinking of making, and where are you going to go in terms of captaincy for game week 2?
Holly, I'm on a stag do this weekend. I'm on a stag do. I leave Friday morning at crack of dawn and I get back late Sunday. And so it means no streams for me, which is disappointing because it's such a busy time. But I am going to be relying on the deadline news. I'm going to be watching your deadline stream to go, is Barco starting or not? And I think we're going to find out because Brighton are in the early kickoff. Now, if Barco starts, I do not have a defensive dilemma. But if Barco doesn't start, I need to make a transfer. And I'm not willing to make a transfer on a 4 million defender. I'd rather just keep Barco. I'll probably have to sell Kwanzaa because my other defender is Ben Johnson, who I think will start because there's injuries at Ipswich. And he plays Man City. He could get minus points.
Yeah.
I don't really want the minus points. So I might be forced to sell in Kwanzaa. And I don't think we're going to hear Kwanzaa team news because they play on the Sunday. So I need Barco team news. And again, I'm probably 60-40 that Barco won't start. But again, he could be injured. We don't know why he didn't feature. We're all assuming he's not in the team. Well, he was pretty key pre-season. He could just have a muscle injury because he did have a muscle injury a couple of weeks ago. I know he was named on the bench, but maybe he just wasn't fit enough to play. So I need that team news. That's the only transfer I might make. And so it'd be Kwanzaa out to a 4.5. And I must admit, I'm not sure what direction I'd go in yet. I want to think about that. I was thinking maybe even a Chelsea defender. I know that sounds criminal.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, but I've got Harwood Bellis on my bench as well as Barco. So I've got two options to sub in for Kwanzaa. So I'm feeling a bit better because Harwood Bellis has got Forest at home. So my only concern, well, I don't think Kwanzaa is going to absolutely bomb in price because he's only 6% owned anyway. But I don't want to be in a situation going into game week 3 where I can't sell Kwanzaa for another 4.5 million defender in one move. So I'm looking at Fulham's Anthony Robinson because he has got 2 promoted sides in his next 2 and 3 home games in his next 4. But I'll make a decision on that later in the week. And then in terms of captaincy, got to be Haaland, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think this is why Haaland drafts, so many Haaland drafts exist. It was the fear of not having him game week 2 captain. So yeah, of course we're going to have him game week 2 captain. Yeah. If he had blanked on Sunday against Chelsea, I'd still, of course, be having him game week 2. That is such an obvious option.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy one captaincy this week. Yeah. So, okay. We're both looking at if we make a transfer, it'd be at the back. You're less likely than I am because you've got Harwood Bellis. I must admit, if we don't hear news on Barco and we don't hear news on Kwanzaa, I might just roll the dice. And if I end up with Ben Johnson, I end up with Ben Johnson. But I do think you're right. Anthony Robinson is a really good option if you're looking at 4.5 because of the fixtures. And I do think, United were good and deserved to win. But for 70 minutes of the football match, it was pretty nil. It looked like a 0-0. And then as the game grew old and Xerxes comes on, they look a bit brighter and go on Nacho and blah, blah, blah. But I think Fulham will be sound defensively. I think that'll be perfectly good. Holly, this week, it's your time to give your parenting moment of the week. Let's move on away from our Friday decisions into parenting moments or hacks of the week. This is a regular feature if you're listening for the first time. We are both parents. I'm sure many of our listeners are too. If you are, give us your parenting stories. You can either make a comment wherever you like to use your comments for podcasts. Or if you want to email us, absolutely feel free to email us with your parenting hacks, and we'll perhaps shout out some of the best ones. It's fplgreenroom@gmail.com. Holly, tell us yours.
Well, I'm struggling a little bit this week because I basically worked every hour last week.
Oh my God.
So I haven't spent that much time with my kids, and they've actually been away for the weekend as well. Oh, so that meant I could watch all of the football. Although I was like, what did I do with my time before I had kids? Yeah. But I was ringing them and on FaceTime, and my elder one, Bobby, she's 5, and she was like, you can have a proper chat with her on the phone now. And she'd been paddleboarding, and she was so proud of herself. She was like, I only went in one of the times, and she was so pleased with herself, which was lovely. But my younger one, Billy, I know you was talking about Gaia last week and how fickle she is in terms of wanting the parent that she's been with. Well, because I've not been here, literally every time the FaceTime camera panned to her, she'd just recall and be like, no, because she just didn't want to talk to me because I'd not been with her. So yeah, light and shade again.
Oh, that is fun. Well, look, I know how many mum hours you commit, so to have a week without them is a nice change for you, but also the busiest week of the FPL season. And your content was awesome. I loved your Friday deadline stream as well. So and your press conference stream. So yeah, I guess you'll be very excited to have them back, and normal service will resume. But yeah, well done, Rob, for taking them away from mum just because it was the main week for your season.
He did take his mum with him, so she probably entertained the kids.
Back up. Love that. As he should. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We're loving having all your positive comments. Do let us know if you've got any comments. Do follow us on socials at FPL Green Room, wherever you go. We're on YouTube, we're on Insta, we're on Twitter. Guys, thank you as always for your support. And yeah, we'll be back for another episode next week where we'll be reacting to Gameweek 2, which I think is going to be a big one. It's Haaland, it's Ipswich, and there's so much more to get excited about in FPL, isn't there, Holly?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll have a green or red arrow come the end of Gameweek 2 as well, which will be exciting to see if we make it into the green room. I see you, Gianni, tactically have had a poor Gameweek 1, so that you can only improve from here. But it'd be great to find out exactly how you've got on. So join us back here in the green room next Monday morning.
See you guys. Bye-bye.